We call to the stand Harper Matheson.
Oh, miss. Don't worry, I've got this.
Please take the stand. Ms. Matheson, place your hand on the Bible to read the oath.
I swear by Almighty God to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Thank you, Ms. Matheson. Prosecution, you may proceed.
Good morning, Ms. Matheson. Don't be nervous, just a few questions for clarification. When did you first become aware of where Mr. Puddett was hiding with the baby?
I'm sorry. I don't recall.
In your statement to the police, you said you found out after Mr. Puddett called his housemate. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, but I don't recall.
We are Si and Sophie. This is Coastal News, a home and away podcast, your weekly episode companion podcast for your favourite Aussie soap.
Well, it has been a busy one, hasn't it? Here at Coastal News HQ this week, Sophie.
Gosh, I
Been a
know. I'm
busy one.
reeling.
Exhausted.
I know.
I'm all right. Are you?
I'm good, thank you. Yeah.
Good, good. Have you been catching up with our 3rd anniversary celebrations?
Of course, I've still got the hangover. So. Of course.
Massive,
Yes.
massive week. And did you? So, because we record magic of podcasts, we didn't necessarily record those one a day this week. You're in convo with. Did you sort of listen back and think, yeah, that was good? Because you said I've completely forgotten everything I said.
I did. I was so tired when we did that. And actually,
Mhm.
just to let everyone in on a secret, well, not even a secret, but 10 minutes after we recorded my conversation, I was passed out on the sofa, fast asleep because I was so tired. And I don't remember anything of what we talked about, but I did listen back to a little bit of it and cringed because I was like, I can tell I'm not really in the room. And I was like fighting my eyelids shutting. I was like, no, stay awake.
You were
Keep
thinking,
talking.
hurry up, you plonker.
I was just exhausted. But yeah, no, I tried. I think yours was a lot better than mine. Let's put it that way.
No, I went on and on and on.
No, that's good. You made up for. I was just like hot.
Get off the phone.
Sand.
Mm.
Blooded sand. Hot sand. Oh, I was like, you
How was yours?
moron.
Thank you.
I was sat there listening to it going, oh my God, Di Lorenzo, coffee cart woman, what are you on about? You said coffee and I said the trots. I don't even remember saying that. Because all I know about coffee is that it makes some people shit themselves. So,
Right, okay.
not being a coffee drinker myself, I don't know much about coffee.
It doesn't happen every time, I'll say that.
Okay.
Well, I enjoyed it, even if you didn't, you blanked it out. Go back if you haven't done so already. I know it's a bit of a commitment when there's like so much extra episodes, but we don't do it to you very often, do we?
No.
So go back. So there's the in conversation with Sophie where I sort of grill Sophie and we sort of recap, don't we, and regroup 12 months in and sort of basically say where we're up to and how we're feeling. And then you did it back to me on the next one in conversation with Si, didn't you?
Yeah.
If you're a nostalgia fan, and Sophie isn't, you can go. There is also a replay app where we have replayed. I mean, it's always out there anyway, but we've just brought it back up.
I know, but it's out there, but nobody can find it unless you highlight it, which you have. Shh.
Sophie's first appearance on Coastal News is
awful. It's awful.
Let me tell you, your first appearance is miles better than mine.
Well, I'm going to find that and put that on the internet.
It's there.
We can compare. Yes, but no one will find it unless I post the link. Oh, I
Don't
will
you
post
dare.
the link this
Don't you
weekend,
dare.
people. Check it out.
So we're 3 now. We're into the 4th year. Well done. We'll celebrate every day anyway.
Yeah.
But the show goes on. Now, to celebrate all this
yeah.
sort of 3 goodness, we have done the infamous mug giveaway that everyone loves, that we do every now and then. So you can get your hands on your very own Coastal News mug, no spider included, hopefully. And all you've got to do is head to our Twitter account, X if you're that way inclined. Coastal News Pod is our handle, and retweet the post that's pinned, telling you all about the competition. Really, anyone can join. So just go on, click the retweet, share the tweet, and you could be in the chance of winning. It's open till about the 9th of August, I think. Doing a month on it. You can do the same on Facebook. If you're on Facebook, we're Coastal News Podcast on Facebook. Share the post. Entries will be pooled in with Twitter. If you don't have either of those, drop us an email, coastalnewspod@gmail.com. You'll be in the competition. We'll remind you again between now and the 9th of August. Did that go all right? Did that sound sufficient? Have I missed anything?
No, that's perfect. Perfect.
Look, it's been a while since I've had to do all that spiel. When was the last mug? Because the last mug's winners were not from a giveaway.
Claire.
And Julie, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But it wasn't a giveaway, was it? It was
Coastal News Claxon. Yeah.
Which is still an ongoing thing.
Yes.
But it seemed to go under the radar this week. Oh, the horror.
The horror.
Nobody know.
What a terrible headline. But anyway. Yes. No one's contacted us. In fact, they didn't actually say the words Coastal News on the show this week. They just showed the paper, didn't they? We saw it, but we didn't actually hear the words Coastal News. So I don't know whether people just didn't hear it and didn't. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, who knows? But it
We're
went
off the hook
anyway.
this week.
Well, I'm gonna say yeah, we're all good. So keep that in mind going forward. That's still an ongoing thing, and all Julie and Claire did was let us know, and they got into the draw. So that's still an ongoing thing. Let us know. What about home and away this week for you then, Sophie? I felt like we had another insane week right off the back of an insane week. Can't keep up.
It was nice this week, actually. It was really sad. It was somber, it was sad, I don't know, the kind of scenes that we got from that were really good. The whole smoking ceremony, which I'm sure we'll come on to, people supporting each other, people, getting angry at each other even was good to see, because it was just like the raw emotion of the whole thing. So I've really enjoyed this week, even though it has been sad. I think it's been still really good TV, hasn't it, this week?
Yeah, I think the show's in its element when it's like this.
Yeah.
As the lighter stuff's great, and we always applaud it, don't we? And you do need it.
Yeah.
Maz giving away stock for free because she's over ordered, because there was a whole movie crew there 24 hours ago. So now she's got a load of banana bread going to go off, so she's giving it away. Little funny things like that, you need it. But I think this is where the show really, really pulls its weight in stuff like this. Coupled together with the writing commendments we've been giving it all year, and things like, it just feels so strong watching it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So do you want your headlines?
I do.
Finally, 8 minutes in. The hunt for the gunman reaches a dramatic climax. Marley sets Stevie's spirit free. Tane has his day in court and receives his sentencing. And there's a new arrival at the farmhouse, but Marley suspects there's more to it.
Please take the time to like, subscribe, and review Coastal News wherever you source your podcasts, and ensure you never miss an episode.
So we join back in the Bay on Monday evening, and we're in the height of this panic. An amazing episode on Friday. I think the show did really well to capture the panic of an event like that. We spoke at length on last week's pod about it. And Monday it spilled into, didn't it? You'll remember we've got the police everywhere looking for Sydney, as the gunman's called, not looking for the place, walking around with a map. The whole of Summer Bay are on some sort of lockdown, aren't they? Waiting to hear if it's safe to go home. Rose is doing one last sweep of the area. They can't find him, and she's like, "We're going to have to, escort people out. We can't keep him here any longer. The guy must have fled the area." Of course, we know he's back at Cash's house because he went in there and got a surprise when he got home from work. He was in the lounge, wasn't he, with the big sniper? So,
yeah.
And they're having this talk, don't we? And I say talk, it's quite a heated exchange, let's call it. And Sydney's basically saying, I need to know that I've done it. I've completed the mission. I need to know that she's dead. And he said, yeah, she is. I'm confirming to you now, mate. Put your gun down. You've done the job. The job is done. You've killed her. And he doesn't believe, doesn't trust him, does he? This is like, without going too deep into it, this is someone who is paranoid. There's a lot going on, isn't there? Do you know what I mean? I was about to list a lot of things, but I thought better of it. This is someone who's not right.
Yeah.
They're not in their right frame of mind, are they?
No.
And that paranoia and that lack of trust sort of goes with that, doesn't it?
Definitely.
He's like, yeah, she's died. I was there. And he's like, I need to finish this. And he's like, you've done it. It's like, why is it not on the news? It would be all over the news. And Cash is trying to explain, it could be a media blackout. This is a famous person. These things just aren't out there, because it causes all sorts of panic and what have you. But it soon will be. It definitely will be on the news. Still doesn't get it, does it? He's going mad. So he gets him up and says, right, we're going to the hospital. I need to see it for myself. And at that moment, Eden comes home and you're like, oh my God, I've not, you're just like, I was just about to take a breath. And Eden walks in. But turned out to be the best thing because he sees the opportunity, didn't he, to rugby tackle him and call Triple O. So we managed to stop him from dragging Cash all the way to Northern Districts. At that point, he's still not getting it, is he, Sophie? It's only when he gets arrested, when Rose gets wind and goes tearing up there to arrest him, and they arrest him for the murder. That is the only time he believes it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And he said, oh, I did it. I completed the movie, which is his goal.
Yeah.
He's absolutely crazy, this guy, isn't he? And he plays a really good psychopath, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because he was genuinely quite scary, because he was laughing about how, I did it, I've completed the movie. Because in his warped mind, he thinks that the movie should have ended with Stevie being killed as well. And he thinks that he's kind of rectified the story of the movie by shooting her in real life. It's wacko stuff, isn't it? But yeah,
it's like it's spawned from that sort of super fan backdrop, isn't it?
Yes.
And how dangerous it does highlight how dangerous it can be for people in the public eye, and and that line between reality and fiction is often a thin one, as we know. I
was gonna say, you need to be careful because we're going to Palm Beach in November and we're not one of the weirdos.
No, we definitely, we do talk like it's real.
I know.
But
we're not dangerous. I feel like we have to say that now. Disclaimer: we're not dangerous. We're just a bit sad.
Yeah, people don't look at us with fear; they look at us with pity.
That's the one. That's the one. That's the look I'm used to.
It's the different sort of. Oh, bless them.
That's true. Oh dear.
Oh dear. Yeah, let's move it on, shall we? Before we have the feds here. Mind you, if Rose is on the case, we're fine. Now, back at the sort of this has all gone on. You'll know Rose was at the surf club most of the day, sort of trying to calm the sitch, wasn't she, and clear the area, as I mentioned. And there was a moment worth mentioning because she's trying to keep a lid on the news of Stevie's death by telling everybody, but then telling them not to say anything, which I thought was a very odd way to go about keeping something on the DL.
This is a very YCPD thing, though. Everyone on the hashtag was loving this because we were just like laughing at the secret that's not actually a secret. It's like when she goes into the diner and announces something and then goes, "Yeah, but keep it under your hat," and it's like, you just told everybody in the diner, and now you've just told everybody in the surf club that Stevie's dead, like, and your brother and Aiden, everybody knows. Like, it's just mad.
Can I ask you, at this point, because I was watching Nelson Manbun's reaction here, and I was like, she was employed to be on the film, wasn't she? She was cast in the film. Did she have a prior relationship to Manbun? Like,
I don't think I got that impression, but what did you see then? Because I don't think I got that. I think they were. Well, he was probably. I think everybody's a little bit in love with her. I think everybody on the show is a bit in love with her, aren't they? The way they've been talking about it, like they've only known her 5 minutes, and everyone's grieving her. And everyone's talking about how great she was. You know, there was a scene with Marley saying, "Oh, she did like loads for me. She didn't even know who I was." You know, Alf's been touched by her. They only had like a 2-minute scene together talking about fishing and when he was driving the Polaris. But I think everyone's kind of fallen in love with her because she was such a big character, and she was like, I mean, even the audience have. I mean, I'm going to talk about it on You'll Stay in the Bay later, but last week on You'll Stay in the Bay, you know, everyone was devastated that she'd been killed off. Again, this week got more comments. I think she genuinely made quite a big impact on the audience and the people in the show. And I think for Nelson, maybe I'm putting him in that camp, that he liked her as a person, was probably in love with her in the way that everyone else was, not like a romantic way, but in a just, you know, when you just meet someone, you just think, oh, I just think they're great, and you kind of go, I don't know what the word is, but
it obviously he finds out. I thought it was quite insensitive the way he found out, to be honest.
Oh, it was awful.
Yeah, and he looked really, really shook, and I thought, have they worked together in the past? Did I miss a sort of backstory of them having a sort of relation? You know, did they work together in the past, or, you know, he seemed really affected by it, and I thought, you know, I mean, no disrespect to my colleagues, but if I'd started a job and 4 days after one of them was shot, I mean, I'm not going to be like, I don't know.
That's true. But do you remember when we first saw Sydney, and it was in that sort of event, the launch event in the city?
Oh yeah.
And Cash turned up, didn't he? And they seemed to know each other quite well then. And like she was saying, I'm really excited to work with Nelson. He's such a great like producer, and he was saying, oh, she's such a great actress. And I got the impression then that they probably did know each other
through the industry.
Yeah, but I don't know how close they were. And obviously she's managed to get him to move the whole movie set to the Bay, so he obviously thinks a lot of her. And like you said the other week, you know, not many people would get away with that. You just go, no, love, it's in the mountains, and you either turn up or you don't turn up, you know.
Yeah.
So
much.
not just all that money to move it to the Summer Bay that they were talking about, and all the costumes and sets and everything that had to be changed.
Yeah.
So he must have thought a lot of her, I think.
And I think he did a really good job at sort of getting me drawn in with that, because he was saying things, wasn't he? Like, you know, I've got it all on film, like
awful
things I've not even considered, but obviously the director would. Do you know what I mean? Like, I thought it was so good.
Yes.
That he would. That is something that a director would consider. You know, they knew what they'd shot. They knew what the setup was. You and I are just thinking we're all held up in the horror of it all. But like, of course, that's going to cross his mind. I thought that was really clever.
He's got a snuff film essentially, hasn't he? That's just all, and it's his friend. You know, it's horrible.
That is a job that's going to change his life forever now, and his career.
Yeah.
Because, you know, where do you go from here? You know, and there's all sorts of, you know, trauma, post-trauma, depression, and all sorts of stuff. And that's his livelihood, right? He might not be able to work on a film again, let alone, you just don't know at this stage, do you? So
no, you don't know how it affects people long term, do you? So
yeah, turns to Bree, doesn't he? At that moment, and Bree's in this bit where she's torn between the two, the present and the past. And she's let herself down this week, so we'll come on to her later. But Bree has been, an absolute mare, hasn't she? This week, it can't just be me that thinks she's let herself down big time here.
no, not at all. I mean, I get that it's difficult. That whole scene with Remy was just difficult to watch for me.
The kiss.
The kiss, yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, it was just difficult to watch
I
because
don't know what I don't know what she's doing. I don't know. I'm struggling to find the words for her, to be honest, because your feelings are your feelings. She was not over him anyway, was she? She reluctantly sort of went out with Man Bun because Kirby sort of said, "Get yourself out there. He's moving on. Why don't you?" Then she's gone through this awful thing at the hospital where she's had to try and resuscitate this person who's dating the man that she's in love with. And there's that guilt carried around that, she tried and tried and tried. She didn't want to be the one to have to say it, did she? And she's got that going on. So I'm cutting her a bit of slack.
Yeah.
But come on, Stevie wasn't even cold.
No. And
she's
think
kissing him.
A lot of people have actually blamed Remy. So looking at social media, a lot of people are saying, "Oh, typical Remy, Stevie's not been dead 5 minutes." And I watched the kiss a few times because I was like, I want to see how this is initiated and both people's reactions. And from my point of view, and maybe I'm being biased because I'm a Remy fan, but point me in the right direction if you think I'm wrong. But it looked like she kissed him because of what he was saying, because he was saying like, "Oh, I fell in love with you because of all," and I was thinking, why are we talking about this? Like, why are we talking about when you guys got together and when you fell in love and why you like her and why are we doing this? Is she fishing for compliments here? I couldn't quite work out how we got on that topic anyway. And that was already shaky ground. And I was like, Remy, you're already overstepping here by saying all this stuff anyway. But then he's grieving and he's in shock. So I kind of let him off a little bit, but not that much. But then she definitely initiates the kiss. And then he just looks really passive in that kiss. He doesn't look like he's really participating that much. And then he pulls away and says, no, like. So I feel like she's got more responsibility for the actual kiss, but then I don't know what the hell he was doing before that made her kiss him. Like, he was banging on about how she's a survivor and that, this is the reason why he fell in love with her. And I was like, no, I don't know why are you talking about this when your current girlfriend is lying in a mortuary in the hospital? I don't get it.
No.
It lost me, this.
Well, if it validates you as a non-Remy fan or someone who can take him or leave him, I drew the same conclusions as you. I don't think they both come out of it smelling of roses, to be honest.
No.
But for me, I'm not saying she went in there thinking, yes, Stevie's dead, I'm going to get my man back, right? I think she went in genuinely in a supportive role, but I think she'd listened to her feelings too much. I think if she'd listened to her head a bit more, she wouldn't have, you've got Man Bun there who we know has got nobody he can even make a phone call to, as you rightly said last week.
Yeah.
I know she's known him 5 minutes, but for me, she knew Remy was okay at the hospital, and she knows he's got other people. And, there's nothing wrong with checking in, but I think she pursued this worry for him a little too strongly because she was listening to the heart and not the head.
Yes.
And it made her do a stupid thing.
Yeah.
And what's worse is later in the week, like she's not being truthful about it. She's not turned around to Man Bun and said, look, I'm not over Remy. I know this is a really, really shit thing that's going on, but this has made me realize, like, we need to There's bigger, more important things in life, and this was a bit of fun, but I'm here for you, you know, whatever you need. But no, she's on his arm and
I
talking
know.
about moving
Italy.
to Italy. Like,
Yeah.
she's still not told him, and I don't think that's right.
It's
I
not right,
don't.
is it? No, it's not right. I think she should have, at that point when he said, you know, I'm thinking about taking this job in Italy, and I'd like you to come with me. At that point, you tell him, wouldn't you? You'd say, right, there's
Yeah.
something I haven't told you. You know, I thought it's not, you know, it's bad timing, isn't it? Basically, you've just lost your friend. You've just seen your friend die in front of you. Like, when do you say, oh, by the way, I sort of cheated on you? You know, when when she dropped that into the conversation, because they're not really dating, are they? But I mean, they're not boyfriend and girlfriend dating, but they are. It's, but then to invite her to, you know, Italy, somewhere across the world, with him for a job.
Something's deeper. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
he's obviously feeling a bit more connected to her than she is to him, and at that point, she should have said, "Okay, I can
Look.
see you
Yeah.
think it's more serious than this, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to have to hurt you in a week where you're already hurting, but it's the right thing to do. I have to tell you, you know."
Yeah,
I don't
completely
know.
agree.
Just think it's
Mhm.
it's made me cringe. And when
It is.
he does find out, because obviously she went and blabbed to Levi, of all people, that she'd actually, you know, she was in this situation, which was really bizarre. Like, she didn't go and tell. Well, I think she did have a coffee with Rose, didn't she? She did probably tell Rose, although we didn't see a huge amount of that. But she didn't go to Kirby or anyone else. She went to Levi. And I mean, you know, I get that he's a resident expert in affairs and cheating now, but it was still really weird, wasn't it? Did you find that
Yeah,
strange?
it was odd because I mean, I just thought I went, the colleagues, you know, okay, but like they don't. What little we've seen, they've had now to do with each other, really. Even though what the scenes they've had together is like passing in the corridor at the hospital.
Yeah,
We
because
don't
they're
know.
colleagues. It's not
Yeah,
appropriate, really,
yeah.
is it?
No,
It's a bit weird.
surely she should have gone to Kirby over
Yeah.
Levi,
Yes.
who was giving her relationship advice in the first place, you know?
Yeah, Kirby or Rose or anyone that
Yeah.
she's not actually friends with, or even Xander, you know,
Mm,
they live together, don't they? So
mm. Yeah, that's true.
anybody. And I
Yeah,
just found this so weird that she was
it
just
was
like,
odd.
oh, I'm with Man Bun kind of, but I'm also kissing Remy, and he was like, okay, like, here's my advice. I was like,
Mm,
yeah, you would know, like, this is
mm,
weird. So,
mm.
you know, if Levi tells Mac and Mac tells, I don't know, someone else and someone else, you know, it's not going to take long to get back to Man Bun. It could go from Levi to Mac, Mac to Cash or Eden, and then from them to Manbun. You know, it's not going to take long to get back to
I
him.
know, I know. And then the other part of me was like, did Stevie just have like the most brutal death so that we have these two back together?
Oh God, I know. Yeah, yeah. Did we bring
Like,
Stevie back in to kill her off to give Brie and Remy a second chance? Oh, yeah.
yeah,
That's
and
depressing, isn't it?
yeah, and in which case I'm already off. I'm
Yeah.
reaching for the remote. I'm not. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm sorry, I'm not here for that. I can't even bring myself to be open to it.
Would we
Really.
even miss if Brie said yes? I want to move to Italy for however long while this film's being filmed. Would we even miss her? Would we notice? Is that harsh?
No, we wouldn't, would we?
I don't think we
But
would.
no, because we've said it a lot on this podcast. What is she doing?
Don't know. Yeah. Yeah.
And the fact that we don't know, but it's frustrating, really, because she's a good character. It's
She's
frustrating.
got potential. That's the thing. She has got potential. And we saw it when she was with Remy, you know, a year ago in the whole affair behind Jacob's back thing. That storyline was great. She's really good in that. But since then, she's just been his, I don't know, just his girlfriend that just sits in the corner of the lyric rehearsal room and doesn't really do very much. Turns up and pays for pizza for them all. And
Yeah.
I don't want that. I don't
Exactly.
want that again. Do you?
No, same.
No.
It'd be interesting. What I believe we should do with her now, I think we need to keep her away from Remy. We've been campaigning for them to split for ages. We think it'd be good for both characters. I think we keep them
Yes.
away from each other. But
Yeah.
I would get her down this whole. She's just been involved in another really, really sort of shocking murder, and I think it should be bringing stuff up. She murdered herself. you know
Yeah.
I think that would be more interesting than
Mm.
with this all being a big device to get them back together as a couple that no one really talks about anyway.
No.
Everyone's a bit lukewarm about them.
Yeah. They get so much airtime, but
Mm,
they're not getting the reception that I think the show was expecting them to get.
definitely.
Mm.
We must mention Sorry Business as well. So, like, the next day, I mean, the Bay is reeling, isn't it? And you've got like grieving superfan TikTokers turning up, selling T-shirts. And Alf thinks Summer Bay has morphed into a morbid theme park, and I thought, this looks great to me. The Summer Bay Morbid Theme Park. VIP ticket, please. Take my money.
There'd be so many places on the tour, wouldn't there? Let's face it.
Yeah.
Gosh.
Celeb time will give you an idea. Summer Bay ghost hunting. There's been that many.
Yeah.
So he wants to do something about it all. He's had enough of these vultures. These. What's your take? This is a very interesting modern phenomena, isn't it? This super fan on the internet with the camera phone. There's been a couple of high profile cases in the UK, mainly missing persons cases. The one I'm thinking of is, remember the Nicola Bulley thing last year?
Yeah, that was
And
awful.
that was
yeah,
the whole investigation was all sort of thwarted by everyone online, people traveling miles to go and try and solve this case, or to try and be in that place where this awful thing happened. This sort of
sick.
reminded me of that.
Yeah, me too. They call it murder tourism, don't they? So all these podcasts that have popped up about true crime, and people blur the lines, don't they? So there's true crime and things that happened like 100 years ago that we're still talking about, you know what I mean? And then there's stuff that happened this week in the news, and the families are alive and the families are grieving, and it's it's current. And I think that's where the line gets blurred. If we're talking about, like, I mean, there's obviously famous murder cases like the Manson family murders, etc., that people still talk about, and people still visit those places. And I still think that's a little bit strange. But there's been so much time that's passed between then and now. These raw ones I feel worse in some way, don't they? Because like I say, they're active cases, and as you said, the one last year, active case, missing person, we didn't know what happened to her at this point, and yet people are there and they're trampling all over the scene and getting rid of any evidence of anything happening. And it's a bit much. It's too much. This week with the show, it's kind of like I've kind of agreed with Mr. Stewart and also not agreed with him in some ways, because there will be genuine fans of Stevie that have been really, really hurt by her death, because we know what it's like in this age now where you find out about celebrity, and a lot of celebrities have died in horrific circumstances, young, shocking circumstances, and there's an outpouring of grief from fans that genuinely are fans, and they feel like to get closure they need to go and do something. They need to have a memorial, or they need to go to a place or whatever. And these 100%. Are people that are grieving, crying, visibly grieving. Whereas the ones on the show this week, they were just walking around taking selfies and like smiling and wearing these T-shirts. I just thought, these aren't grievers. This is the bad side of things. This is I want to go here and put it on Instagram and say that I've been to the place where she was murdered. And that's the gross murder tourism that we've got, isn't it? I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's really, really good the show has touched it, actually, and done it, because it's a really modern story. Can you imagine trying to be a soap this old, and society's changed so much, and like, how do you think of a new storyline or a new way to tell something? This is right on the pulse. Like, this is happening out there now, and it is a really ugly side to this world of celebrity and its obsession with and social media, and that instant gratification, that endorphin that people crave so much, and the lengths they're willing to go to get it. I think it's a really brave thing to explore, actually, and I'm glad they did it. I think it's really
It
important.
is. Yeah, and I wondered whether there was some kind of, because we know the show itself in real life, there's been tragedies, hasn't there? There's been actors
Very
that were on
true.
the show that have tragically died in awful circumstances, young, again, shocking situations. And I wondered whether this was touching on, I mean, I've not read anything, I've not seen anything. I don't know whether this has happened in real life at all, but possibly those events could have triggered some fans to turn up to Palm Beach or wherever after these, you know, stories have hit the news and do the kind of similar thing, like a kind of
Very
and
possibly.
some people will be there genuinely to say, you know, to say goodbye and to sort of process what's happened, and other people will be there because, you know, it's in the news and they want to say like, oh, guess where I was today.
I want to get the
You know what I
likes,
mean?
get the clicks, get the
And that's the bit that makes me uncomfortable, because obviously from a personal point of view, I've lost celebrities that I've thought very highly of, and it's hit me and affected me quite badly in real life. And then I felt this kind of like, I don't know, like a shock, and I need closure. And you know, I've been to memorial gigs for people that have passed away, and that's helped, you know, that sort of going along with a group of fans that all feel the same way, singing along to the songs, that, you know what I mean? And that's like it's like a cathartic therapy
You
sort of
have
session.
and it's cliche, but it's closure, because
It
you have
is,
to
yeah.
understand, you as a fan of a person in the public eye develop a strong connection to that person.
Yeah.
Being a fan is a really, really fascinating connection. It's not like any other connection that you make in life, because there's quite often there's nothing in return for it. It is quite a one-way labor of love, being a big fan of somebody. And when that dies, the family get to say goodbye. The family might be there at the time. The family will go to a funeral. They'll have that moment. But as a fan watching from a distance, what do you have? You don't have that. So there needs to be something for you as the fan to be able to sort of close that chapter and move on from it. You know, that's the best way I can articulate it.
No, I agree, and I think it like you say, it's really topical, because like I say, I've been in that situation where I've, you know, everyone knows in this podcast, you know, the reason I wasn't here for last month when we had to block record all the episodes, because I'm a big Foo Fighters fan, and obviously we lost the drummer a couple of years ago, Taylor Hawkins. Awful situation, really, really devastated me at the time, still devastated now, to be honest. And they did memorial concerts for him, and I went to the one in Wembley in London, and I also flew lastminute.com. I got the ticket on Thursday and I flew out on the Monday to go and watch the memorial concert for him in LA as well. And people were saying, you know, some people were being supportive, but people that, you know me and fans of the band and etc. were like supportive, but there were the odd one or two comments from people saying like, oh, that's a bit weird and a bit fanatical and a bit whatever. And I kind of got it, but I was like, but I know the difference. Like, that's to go to a public event that's been put on in his name, to say goodbye, like I said, to get closure. I'm not turning up at his house. I wouldn't do that, and I wouldn't turn up to the place where he passed away, because I just wouldn't do that either. It there's a difference, isn't there? And I think it's quite, like you say, it's brave of the show to show the bad side of it. And the kind of people profiting off death, people selling T-shirts, you know, flogging knockoff T-shirts with, you know, copyright images that they've not got any right to sell. That's the bad side, isn't it?
Absolutely. I really, that's the very interesting conversation we've had there. You know, I really thank you for sharing your personal experience, because it really helps bring that to life for me listening. You know, like trying to, you know, understanding why someone would take that journey, and you can absolutely empathize with that, because they don't have what a close family member would be able to have. You know? You need to do something with people who feel the same as you, and just be in the moment and celebrate that person, haven't you? You've got to, because it's for your own sanity.
Literally.
Of course you do. So thank you. Alf, feels like you say the same as you. But so I'm going to talk quite a bit about Alf, to be honest with you. I mean, we've been talking about this for a long time, so never mind. We need to get through it. But Alf's, he's. I've been watching him very, very analytically this week. There's a few instances, and I'll explain in a mo. But he's like, get rid of it, get the beach open. He's very much king of the beach, isn't he? You know, he's thinking, right, how do we get people back on the beach? People aren't going to the beach, and he wants people to enjoy this space again, this beautiful beach, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And he's saying we need to do something. We need to move the memorial. We need to, you know, I mean, he manages to get Rose in, and he manages to get T-shirt seller moved on quite quickly. So that's 1-0 to Alf. And then at that point, I was a bit like, Alf, come on, man, be a bit sensitive. Do you know? Like, I get it, but like, can you just be a bit more tactful? Because this is all very raw. But then he sort of flips again because he listens to others around him. Marley's a bit like, no, you know, he and Kirby are having conversations about the lessons, and he's like, I can't do it. I can't go there with knowing that Stevie's spirit is there. Now this is being probably one of the biggest pieces of that we'll see on clips and things we'll see on Home and Away this year, I think, when it comes to societal importance, right? And it's Marley and him and his response to a death. He said, you know, Stevie was nothing but amazing to me. You know, she brought me great fortune. You know, she was really, really kind to me. And I don't feel like it's right to go down there in the place where she lost her life whilst she hasn't, the community and everybody haven't had a chance to complete and say goodbye. Everything we've just been talking about. And this, of course, we know Marley, he is an Aboriginal character. And this is a absolute glorious opportunity to really put this up front and center of the show, right? As it should be with a character like Marley. I think I tweeted it in the week, because I think I was on that night on the Twitter. You know, this absolutely should be every fiber of this character. And I'm so glad it's here. I am so glad it's here.
Yeah.
He needs an elder, doesn't he? And he can't find one for love nor money. So he's high and low, all the land. He can't find an elder. So he takes it on himself to perform this smoking ceremony on the beach. Traditional smoking ceremony. Remind us of the meanings, because you looked this up, didn't you?
Oh gosh,
on the night.
I can't remember off the top of my head now. God, it was days ago. But basically, they did the smoking ceremonies is a way of celebrating not just the good times, but also sorry, not just the bad times, but also the sort of the good that comes out of it as well. So it's key moments in your life. It's your birth, your death, etc. So it's not just about, you know, it's not just about sad things. But it is something that was like, it's an ancient custom, isn't it, amongst Aboriginal Australians?
Yeah.
So it's something that's really key and really important. And also, I think the fact that we had, I mean, the range of people that we had that took part in the ceremony, I think, is important as well to highlight. You know, from Theo to Justin to Alf to Kirby, there's a good representation of everybody on the show there, really. And I think it's really important to, especially to have Mr. Stewart there as the older, you know, that commentary on Australia and the vote that they had, you know, recently, that we won't go into, political vote that's very core to this kind of thing. To have that kind of older person included in this and participating and seeing that it's really important to participate and do this, even though he doesn't necessarily believe the same things or know much about the culture, he's getting involved and he wants to be there and he wants to support Marley. And I think that was a really important thing to show this week.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I felt like there were some people missing actually from the ceremony. I felt like Cash could have been there. I know he was at the City engaged, and then maybe Man Bun could have been invited.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it was too early for them.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe. You're probably right. I do, however, take what you're saying about the multi-generational. That was a snapshot. That was like symbolic of society, wasn't it? Right there. That was
Yes.
like,
Yeah.
this is
Yeah.
everybody, no matter what, like
Yes.
coming together and accepting of
Yeah.
these customs, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Now, I completely and utterly agree with it. This was why it was so glorious. I was so moved. I've watched it so many times now. I was watching Alf, right? And maybe I'm reading between the lines. Tell me to shut up, stop drinking, whatever. But I was watching Alf thinking, Alf has gone from stop telling T-shirts, this is vulgar, you vultures. And he's almost become one of them. He's on the beach, but he's doing it. He's sort of come round full circle. He's doing it in a more, this is the good side of it. Like we were talking about, the other stuff was the bad stuff. So this was like, this is how this is the pure way to do it.
Yeah.
And then when they sort of, because of the ceremony itself is amazing, isn't it? And there's no point describing it. The clips on our social media, go watch it, right? Or you'll watched it on the show anyway if you're listening to this. And then they get the surfboards, don't they? And they run into the sea.
Yeah.
Everybody but Alf, right? And this was a clip that, and it's not often, me and Alf. I'm not, out of the two of us, you'd be the choked up one, right? and I'm watching Alf here, the shot of Alf on the beach, and he's looking on, isn't he, at all these different people from different walks of life coming together and going into the water. And it almost felt like Alf, it was written on Alf's face to me. He was like, this place is in good hands. Like these people, because that's him that organizes that normally. But Marley's done an amazing job, and this place and these people are in safe hands.
Yeah, and it's like the kids are going to be all right because they know what they're doing. They're not all drongos and grubs, and he does have his rant about people, doesn't he? And calls people galahs and grubs and drongos and what have you. And he feels like he needs to be the one that pulls everything together. But you're right. I think he thinks, if I had to step away, actually, this place wouldn't fall to rack and ruin because we've got good people here who would carry on.
Yeah.
Kind of the culture of the bay's got its own culture, hasn't it? Essentially.
Yeah, that's true. Very, very true. And that was, in fact, that whole surfing, getting into the water with the surfboards, that is bay culture.
Yeah.
That is, that's the way we've seen so many characters do that thing to mark somebody.
You rally around and you help people. You're like, the community spirit that's always been on Home and Away. If someone's going through something, you help them. If you need to support someone, you support them. If you need to show up and support the community project, whatever it might be, the missing baby or whatever it is that we've had recently, that's still there. That's very Summer Bay culture, isn't it?
Yeah. So I just sort of paused the telly on Mr. Stewart, just sort of looking out over the bay. Yeah. And he's looking at these youngsters coming through, growing up in the bay, and thinking, they're going to be all right.
Do you think
that's how I felt?
Justin is going to be like the future Mr. Stewart one day?
Future king.
Yeah.
Don't know, but it did choke me up. It really did. Sorry, you'll not watch that scene the same way now.
No, it was sad enough already.
There was just absolutely zero dialogue, but they didn't need to be. It was just so good. It was, I got all that from just a look. Right, Tane. Let's move on.
Jesus, do we have to?
Tane, he's you remember he was in the hospital overnight at the beginning of the week, and then sort of went MIA when he got discharged. Dana's going stir crazy about the impending, now delayed court case because he was bashed. And Xander being amazing with Dana, as always, giving little hugs and kisses on the beach, saying it's going to be okay. Couple goals. Dana's actually practicing her speech with him because she's like verbatim. She's going to go in court and just regurgitate. You know, I love Dana because she's an absolute hot mess of nerves. She's a bag of nerves, isn't she? You know,
Yeah.
and this is something she doesn't want to do. She's carrying a lot of stuff because she was directly involved in the incident. Fair, and which rightly so she ought to be fair. You know, she got away. How she got away with it, I've no idea. She shouldn't have done. So she's carrying a lot of it, isn't she? And you know, she's going to say something that's going to put my friend away. You're thinking, oh gosh, yeah. She's had to duck out of a shift as lifeguard one day. John's not happy about it, and when he sees her in the diner before court, looking all flash in her uncle's suit, that was 10 times too big for her. She looks like she borrowed her dad's suit.
I know.
What the hell's going on? He starts laying into it, doesn't he? Saying, look at you, I was socialising, looking all flash. And Maz has to step in and like, John, she's going to court. Oh no. So now we've got a witness in tears before the court's case has even began. And you're just thinking, oh dear God. Back at the gym, Tane is doing the whole soap thing, you know, where they take one last look around the gym. Run their hand along something, you know, like, I'll never see you again. They do it on soap, don't they?
I love it. It's such a cliche. I like to see it. If it's not there, you'd complain, wouldn't you? You'd be like, where was the last scene?
I know. Someone on a British soap, they're like taking one last look around the pub, aren't they, before they turn the lights off? You know? Has anyone done that in real life? Bloody hell.
I love it.
So he's giving the gym one last look before he goes down.
Yeah.
And then Marley comes in, and this was quite a nice scene, which is why I'm going to mention it. He comes in, doesn't he? And he sort of reminds him, you know, you're not alone, because all we know is Tane is pretty much alone. He doesn't want Flick at the thing. You know, no one wants anything to do with him or Rue. Yeah. But he sort of let, you know, it's his flatmate. I thought, you know, he probably needed to hear from a friendly face. He says, you're not alone. And good luck. I'll see you later. And he's like, maybe not. All right, okay. He's getting in the car and Flick jumps in. So it's like, okay. But he's at the point where he can't be bothered arguing, can he? So they all go to court in the end, even though he didn't want Flick there. And it gets underway. No plea has been entered straight from the off. And Dana's on the stand first. And they're basically cross-examining, the prosecution are cross-examining her and basically making it sound like she was manipulated by Tane. And I was thinking, you've done all this prep, girl, and you look a bit shocked that that's what they were going to say. That's quite an obvious thing that they're going to say to you.
Yeah.
You look a bit shocked by it.
And she'd been given the questions beforehand because Harper said to her, you know, because they are witnesses for the prosecution, so the prosecution has to prep them. So he's told her all the questions he's going to ask her in advance.
Yeah.
She's in the best possible position. It's not like she's being cross-examined by the prosecution. She's their witness. So
answer the questions and get out.
I didn't really get it either. I was like, you've had ages to prep for this and you've done the rehearsing, so let's just get on with it.
I know. Come on, get on with it. To be honest, though, in the court, we've got lawyers, we've got witnesses on the stand, we're giving oaths. I mean, I was in my element. I love a bit of a courtroom. You know this.
Yeah.
So I was just happy to be. And then the fun really began when Harper got up. I mean, I have no idea. I actually laughed and rewound it when she was like, I do not recall. I was like, oh my God.
Well, it was the conversation with the lawyer that gave her this idea, wasn't it, the week before? Did you see that? And he was saying like, oh, I've seen it where people have pretended not to remember, and a little penny dropped in her head, and I was like, oh God.
Yeah, I loved it because I didn't see it coming, even though that conversation had happened. I didn't actually see it coming. I didn't think she'd do it.
Oh dear, I did, unfortunately. I was prepped for it. I know. Like, you remembered 2 days ago when I was prepping you for court, because I asked you all these questions when we rehearsed all this stuff, and you remembered perfectly well then. She's like, I don't remember. God, I was actually fuming about this. I was fuming. Because I
There was no
don't get
need
this.
at this
Genuinely,
stage.
I need to
Yeah.
ask you. I need to ask you about this and whether I've got this completely
God,
wrong. So I was just fuming because
what do I know?
after
Go.
afterwards, when they were doing like the debrief with Marshall, and Marshall was saying Dana's testimony didn't really help us, and Harper's did help us, and I was like, it helped in the way that she didn't actually say anything, so she didn't testify against Tane, so therefore she didn't say anything bad about Tane, so therefore it helped you. But did it really help you? Because I'm not being funny, but wouldn't it have been better for her to try and answer the questions like Dana did? In a positive way, because Dana said some really good things, like he was really helpful. He, his priority was the baby. All the nurses liked having him around. He was never violent or, raised his voice with us or the baby. We didn't feel unsafe around him. And I thought that's all useful information to be saying about him under oath as a nurse. And I just thought Harper's just saying nothing at all. I was just like, you could at least try.
Yeah, I mean, she did start talking after she got threatened with contempt and all that, didn't
Yeah,
she? But
I
it
just thought
wasn't.
it was
Yeah.
just not worth it. I just thought it was.
No.
I thought it would piss off the judge more, and then
Yeah.
make her more annoyed with Tane. Thinking that he
Yeah.
put her up to it, kind of thing.
Yeah. At this stage, you'd just be like, "There's no point at this stage." Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
if you're gonna do all that funny business, do it at the beginning when the guy's been arrested.
yeah. When you've been questioned
Um.
by the police.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
At this stage, they've got him banged to rights with a baby in a house somewhere because, do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, yeah.
just tell the truth, because last thing you want is more trouble. Anyway, I mean, and then there's that whole twist of the piece of paper, and Sonia's decided she's not coming. So then they all think he's up shit creek without a paddle, don't they? At that point.
Yeah, yeah.
Now this, I'm assuming, is why what happens next happens, right? Because Tane has all but sort of resigned himself to going down.
Yeah.
As has everyone else. Everyone's a bit frustrated and things are getting a bit heated, aren't they? And Tane has basically, he needs to go. He needs to be on his own and goes to the gym basically, and starts sulking in the gym. And Flick goes to him and says, "Look," and he's like, "I don't want to hear it," And she's like, "Well, what, you don't want to hear that I'm sorry?" Because she's annoyed at the beginning, but he's talked round to the lawyer, because the lawyer ends up going back to court after an adjournment on some information that she's given him about them not being able to have children and all the rest of it. And Marshall brings that up in court, gets Tane on the stand without prior knowledge, and he uses that as a way to sort of build his character in court. So everyone's annoyed. Tane's sulking. Flick's visiting him and saying, "Look, don't be alone, come and have a drink," but he don't want a bar of it. He don't want to, he's not ready for it. Harper comes and visits him with a bottle of booze, and did you notice his demeanor is completely different when Harper walks in the room to when Felicity walks in the room. Flick walks in, it's like, "Don't want to know." Harper walks in, it's like, "Oh, well, you did your best." Like, right.
Yeah. I mean, there's still a lot of stuff going on between him and Flick, isn't he? It's understandable. I think that he's not feeling that kind of warm and friendly towards her. He has just found out that she's slept with his lawyer, and then told him all this personal stuff about their relationship. You would feel a little bit awkward.
Of course you would. And
Yeah.
he's forced to face it in court under oath in front of an audience. Like,
Yeah.
they were like, "This is the reason why you're so obsessed. This is the reason why you went to these lengths." And he's got to. It's the first time he said it out loud. He's been forced to say, "Well, yeah, it is." Like, did he even realize it himself?
No.
Until that point, it's quite a confronting way, isn't it, to have to deal with it.
Yeah.
So yeah. Now, all this and him then sort of confined to the fact that he's going to go inside. Does he then have a drink of whiskey or whatever it was out of a paper cup and think, "Fuck it, on the floor now, woman. Like,
Well,
he and Harper sleep together in the gym office or whatever. Like, is that because he's thinking one last, I'm going down, let's just have some fun, like, let's just self-destruct some more? Like, what's your take on it?
I have questions on this, which we can't really answer because we didn't see enough of the scene, and perhaps it does need to be on at 9 o'clock so we can actually see some of this. But I have questions about how spontaneous this sort of sexual encounter was, because, like you said, is it just throwing caution to the wind and thinking, I'm going down, because this point we thought 15 years, didn't we? I'm going to prison for 15 years. I might as well get my leg over one more time with this girl before I go, get drunk and accept the consequences tomorrow and whatever. But was it that sort of spontaneous? Because where did this bed and the bedding and the whole sheets, duvet, everything come from? How spontaneous was this? Did he go, wait a minute, I was going to go and make up the sofa bed, put all the duvet on? I'm sorry, that's not spontaneous, unless that bed was already set up in the gym office and he'd already planned on sleeping there that night. I don't know, this feels more calculated to me, but...
Were they not on the floor with a sleeping bag?
No, it was like a sort of airbed thing. And then they had sheets, pillowcases, pillows and pillowcases, a duvet and a duvet cover. I checked this. I was like, this isn't spontaneous unless this was already made up in the gym office and he planned to sleep there overnight to say goodbye to the gym or whatever. I don't know.
It's all a bit silly, isn't it? That you're right. Because, do you know, if that happened, you got drunk, and that happened at the gym, it'd be up against the lockers or something, and then you'd be
would,
like, right,
or it'd be on the bench
pull your
press
knickers
or
up and
something.
get an Uber home.
Yeah, exactly. They'd be lying on the bench press. You know what I mean? Or like up against the running machine or something. It wouldn't be on the airbed with duvet covers. I'm sorry. It didn't look spontaneous to me unless he'd pre-planned it and I don't know.
Or after foreplay, he just gets his foot pump out and says, you go and top the drinks up.
That is the foreplay side. That is the foreplay. Look at this.
And he's there with the foot pump, like putting the airbed up.
Oh dear. I did have to stop and like look at this. I was like, wait a minute. This is not, because if it's like you say, if it's spontaneous, there'd be clothes over the gym floor, they'd be picking them up and putting them back on again. Not getting out from under a duvet when the alarm goes off in the morning. I was like, what? This is planned. This is too
Well, they're woken up the next day, aren't they, by like Marshall, like, come on, the centre, you need to come into court. So then he's just like puts his suit back on and goes straight to court. I'm like, yeah.
And also, if he does go to prison, that suit is what he's going to be wearing until someone takes his bags to prison so he can like get into something else.
I mean, you're in the gym, there's showers, man.
Yeah,
there's showers.
Exactly. Showers.
And I did like, though, that then Harper comes creeping out of the gym and Marley's like,
Judgy Marley. You know, we had Judgy Ruru for a while. Now we've got Judgy Marley, I think, because he's getting very judgmental in his old age, is Marley. His face was just like, he was shaking his head. He was like, no. I was like, well, deal with it, love. What's happened?
I know. He's only jealous.
That's true.
If only his relationship was as excited as the gym floor airbed.
As spontaneous as Tane's foot pump airbed.
Yeah. The demigod, he wishes. He wishes. Oh gosh. The judge basically says, look, you're the nicest fella ever. I've heard it all, but you broke the law. So here, and I can't wait for your reaction to this. Here's 7 years to be served in the community with enforced training to identify damaging behaviour.
Sorry, what?
And now, like a week ago, you were like, how do you get away with kidnapping the baby? You can't. Tell me, Sophie, thoughts on the sentence?
Well, in real life, it would be utterly shite, wouldn't it? To be honest,
Mm.
it would be shite because
Mm.
you've broken the law, and they haven't. I don't think the defense was very good. Actually, I know everyone's praising Marshall, saying he's great and everything. I like the character of Marshall, but this defense hung on the fact that his wife lied to him, which is not a crime.
Yeah.
As everyone on the internet is repeating, not a crime that she lied to
Mm.
him. That is the defense, that he's like, he just wants to be a dad so much that he stole a baby. That's not really good enough. I don't think that's good enough. And I think
Mm.
that the missed opportunity, again, as we've been saying for ages, is the mental health aspect of this. The fact
Yeah.
that he was having a breakdown. He's clearly having a breakdown because of all the stuff that happened with his marriage and the end of his marriage, and the fact that he's alone now, and the fact that all his family's either dead or in New Zealand. We didn't go down that route though, and that wasn't the defense. The defense was he wants to be a dad so much he stole a baby, but he's a nice guy. I still don't buy this, Sai, and I still don't think that in the eyes of the law, I don't think in real life this would ever happen. But obviously it's a
No.
soap.
Yeah.
I don't want Tane to go to prison necessarily, if it means him going out the show, unless we got, like we said last week, cell block Tane, which I would be up for. I don't want him to leave the show. So selfishly, I'm going with it because I'm like, well, at least what's going to change? Nothing. Like, he's going away to this court-ordered like training for 3 weeks, and then he's going to come back, and we're never going to mention it again. And we go back to square one, and I can kind of live with that. It's ridiculous.
It
But
is.
just...
This seems to happen a lot. People seem to get in trouble, go to court, and then get ordered to go to therapy.
Yes.
Like, I think I'm gonna commit some crime or something, because, like, why not?
Are you
Free
bored?
therapy.
That's true. Try and get on the NHS waiting list. You ain't got a chance,
I know.
mate.
I know. So, do you know what I mean? Like, it's not just me, is it? This happens a lot.
On Home and Away, yes, it happens all the time, because we've had several people. You know, Justin last year, he absolutely pummeled somebody to death, and then they said, "Oh, you thought that your daughter, you know, she lied to you, and you thought that your daughter was in danger. That's okay then. Just go to some anger management classes and
once."
do pick up some litter." The fact that you pummeled him, you did it for the right reasons. All these the reasons. This is why it gets very grey and dodgy, doesn't it? You did the wrong thing for the right reasons. Well, how much can you get away with by saying you thought you did the right thing?
I don't know. The one saving grace with Tane's situation is that he's going to be able to identify his damaging behaviour at the other side of it. So maybe there'll be some sort of self-healing as a result, because he'll be much better able to. He's dealing with the inner demons, right? However, do you know what? I've written a gaff down here. I bet a more suitable sentence would have been 7 years enforced podcast hosting on Coastal News.
I would have been up for that.
That's a harsher sentence.
It's much harder work.
Oh, gosh. And let me tell you, we'll identify all your damaging behaviour for you. How about that?
Not our own, though. We gloss over our own.
Yeah.
We'll see yours.
Oh, yeah. Absolute angels, us. Right.
Oh, dear.
Speaking of angels, one hath arrived at the farmhouse, broken their way in, knocked off the deadbolt or whatever it was on the door. Security, mucho hard. I'm surprised it was locked. Marley and Rose had planned in some afternoon delight because they've got the house to themselves, so they go
scheduled afternoon delight. Always
excited.
Good, isn't it?
Yeah. No risk of an impromptu airbed pump there, let me tell you. And so they go up to the house, don't they, the farmhouse, and they find the door open, the lock's been broke, someone's broken in. Turns out it's Marley's brother Luca. That's right, isn't it?
I think it was Luca.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, I had a look on Back to the Bay, and it's ILUKA.
Oh, I thought it was double L.
Luca. Yeah.
Luca, sorry. So Luca's here, and he looks a bit rough and ready, doesn't he? He's broken his way in, already starting to piece the pieces together, aren't we? And he's like, hey, this is the Rose I've heard all about. Oh God. There was quite a weird line actually from Marley. It was like, oh, they talk about you or something. It's like, oh.
Well, yeah, I have a question for you. You know, last week when we said we saw him, didn't we, in like the first look or whatever, I think. And I think we read about it in first look, and you said, "Oh, I didn't know he'd got a brother and he got sisters." And at the time, I was like, "Yeah, I think he has only got sisters." But then it like penny drop moment after this was when he first got to go together with Rose, and there was that whole hoo-ha about cops and how he hates cops and everything. And he did talk about a brother, and he said his brother got in some trouble when he was younger, and then after that, the cops kind of stereotyped him as a bad seed.
That's it. Yeah.
And then they basically he said they racially profiled him. And whenever something happened in their hometown, he'd get picked up and he'd be the first person on the suspect list, even though it wasn't him and all this stuff. And I was like, is this the brother? Is this the brother why the family don't like cops? Is this the troublemaker brother? Is this him?
Do you know what? I totally forgotten about that last week, and you're absolutely spot on. Yeah, that's interesting. Now, it certainly looks like it could be him. However, this makes me really not very happy again with Marley's family's reaction to Rose, because he looks like he probably deserved a lot of his trouble. I mean, I know I'm judging a book by its cover, but
he has broken into a house, and that's the first time we've seen him.
So
is it still criminal if it's your brother's house that you broke into? It might be.
I think so. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. A bit of self-enforced therapy, Who knows?
He wouldn't get any prison sentence for that in the Bay, that's for sure. Because if you don't get it for kidnapping, you're not going to get it for busting your brother's lock, are you?
No, he's come to the right place to get away with shit. So he's there, isn't he? He's helped himself to a beer, and I'm thinking, I don't like. Oh God, wrong gun. Rose is sort of, this isn't my world, and she sort of scarpers, doesn't she? And then as soon as she's out of the way, right, what have you done now? What are you doing here?
What have you done this time? He said, this time. This was exactly when the penny drop happened, because I was like, this time he's a baddie, and then I was like, oh, I remember this now. He has got a brother, and I'm sure we said that he's got a shady past, but then he turned around. But then the reason why they hate cops is because he can't ever get past his previous life and all the mistakes he made, and he's racially profiled, and he's picked up and he's made a suspect, blah, blah, blah. And that's when I was like, this must be the guy.
I hope it is, because I'm really intrigued to find out what it's like, and whether we've only heard one side to that story, haven't we? And we're all like, that's mad that people in Australia dealing with that kind of racial profile. That's insane. Now I'm thinking there's more to it.
Yeah.
Now we've met the fella.
And the story we got given by Marley was that this guy was back on the straight and narrow. So the fact that he said, what have you done this time? He's not even surprised by it. I was like, so he's still a wrong 'un.
Yeah.
So what's the story here?
Well, and he's avoiding explaining, so we know.
Yeah,
he's running. He's running from something. He's hiding from someone.
Yeah.
Something's not right, and of course, we're all gonna love it, aren't we?
And the first thing he's done is run to his brother who's dating a cop. Smart.
Well, yeah, but even that could be all part of a plan.
Oh yeah, that's true.
You don't know, do you? You don't know. You might need stuff, and she's, as we know, she's got a mouth on her about cases, and what is he here, and what does he want, and is he going to take advantage of Marley, who this week I'm going to go, oh, poor Marley, I hope he doesn't take advantage of Marley this week.
Oh God, right, let me update the book. Hang on.
He's in the good books because he's done a lovely little ceremony on the beach.
Right, okay, right, Marley's in the good books this week. Okay, I'm writing it down.
I'm thinking of booking Marley for our 4th anniversary.
Really?
Yeah.
What for? What's he going to do?
Just something. I don't
Could he
know
do
what.
Magic Marley dance?
The whirling dervish.
The whirling dervish, yeah. Look at his
Yeah.
fancy footwork. Yeah.
Yeah, why not? Why not? Are we the Rowdy Hen do? Yeah, that's fair enough.
That's
Yeah.
pretty much.
Want to watch then? Marley's brother. Hi, Luca. Let's. Well, we're going to see First Look tomorrow, but I feel like next week things could be kicking off, and it could be a nice storyline for Marley. Actually, give him some meat on the bones. Do you not think?
Yeah. Right, Si, I've been digging through social media and finding out what the people think. The people that watch Home and Away at the UK pace. So I've been digging through social media, social meds, as John likes to call it, reading comments and reactions for people to give us their sound the bay. It's your sound the bay, this segment is called.
Is it busy on the social medias lately? Are
Do you
people
know
into
what?
this as much as we are?
Facebook is uncharacteristically quiet this week, which has been a bit strange. There's been quite a few. I look on the Home and Away UK Facebook page where they put a lot of clips from the show, put a lot of pictures, and that usually gets people talking and engaging in the comments. There hasn't been that many comments. Usually a post can get like 100 comments, and this week we're getting like 10. Less than 10 on some of them. Yeah. I don't know whether it's the time of year. Well, yeah, I was going to say that this time of year, we always noticed a bit of a lull online in the summer, especially coming up towards the summer holidays when the kids are off. And then, when there's been football, Wimbledon, what else has been on this week? Everything's a bit, but I think people are watching on catch up and probably not looking on social media to avoid spoilers. I don't know.
Yeah.
Could be wrong. But it's feeling
a lot
bit
of people's
quiet.
routines are up in the air at the minute with the sport and stuff, aren't they?
Yeah, and then the people that were commenting, there were a lot of comments saying, "Oh, great, this is a spoiler because I'm not up to date and stuff." And I was like, "Oh,
well, that's an indication then if ever you need one, isn't it?"
Yeah,
it's just interesting because I thought, generally when the show is like something mad's going on, generally like the engagement's through the roof, and it's compared to a regular old week that's trucking on. So
yes, I just think it's that funny time of year. July and August it tends to drop off a little bit naturally.
Yeah.
It has done for the last 2 years. So
yeah.
I think it's just a pattern. But anyway, I have been reading the people that have commented. I've read your comments. Before we read them out though, because I'm going to read them out to you, Si, so you can see what people are saying. Before I do that, quick reminder that we are on social media as well. So Coastal News Podcast, at Coastal News Pod, Facebook, Instagram, Threads, YouTube, Twitter, etc. We do tweet along with the show when we are available. Well, I have to say, I have to put the disclaimer in now because a couple of times this week or last week we've been unavailable because we've had stuff to do at 6:30 on a Tuesday night, which has been bizarre. But when we are watching the show, we watch it at 6:30 p.m. Monday to Friday. So that's the First Look pace on 5-star. And we tweet along using the hashtag Home and Away hashtag on Twitter. So come and join us and join in the discussion and talk about everything you think about what's going on the show. And then I might just read it out on here. You never know.
Do that because it's our favourite bit.
It is genuinely, it's the best bit. And I've had people contacting me on Instagram and all kinds of places this week and talking about Home and Away, which has been really good as well. So first topic then, are you ready? We're going to talk about Stevie, obviously the big topic. So on last week's Your Sound the Bay, when we recorded, we came straight off of the First Look episode where we saw her tragically pass away, didn't we? We saw Brie in the hospital trying to revive her and failing and having to tell Remy and all of that sort of stuff. So I had a few hot off the press comments from people on Twitter who were watching the show at the time. But it was a bit too early for Facebook at that point, so there weren't any comments. So I went and had a look this week and saw if there's any comments on Facebook about Stevie's death and what people thought, etc. Just to see if there's any, because I like to compare Twitter and Facebook because sometimes they are very different vibes, different opinions and stuff. So I thought I wonder what they thought about Stevie and Stevie's death.
Yeah.
So first of all, we've got Kaylee on Facebook says, I can't believe they killed Stevie off after everything. I'm starting to like her, even with Remy as well.
Oh,
So yeah, there were quite a few comments like this, like the people saying, I can't believe that they've done this. Francis said, I can't believe we didn't get to know much about her previous life, apart from when she mentioned that she lived in a place like Cash's and her dad took her fishing when she was younger. And other people saying, yeah, loved her. It was really sad. Hope they catch the bad man. So this was obviously before we saw Monday's episode. Kelly saying, I wasn't ready for Stevie to go. I really liked her. Gemma says, I cried watching this. I love Stevie. Maybe because I'm 18 weeks pregnant. I don't know, but I did enjoy her role. So congratulations. It could be the hormones, or it could just be, I mean, I was crying and I'm not pregnant, so I was quite upset about this.
It's funny, she seems to have really resonated with people and made a big impact, despite her being around for like, what, 6-8 weeks?
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
If that. Yeah.
It's quite funny. Her legacy, she's going to have a legacy with this death, but we knew very little about her. It's quite funny, isn't it, how much she has managed to punch through in such a short space of time.
Yeah.
Interesting hearing it.
Yeah, it is, and I can't find anything really that negative about it. There are a couple of comments which I think I'll get onto in a minute, but there's nothing saying I really didn't like her. I'm glad she's dead. Hooray! There's which we've had with other characters that we've brought on in the last couple of years, where we've been talking on the podcast, where they've been a temporary person, they've been come on and killed off. We've kind of laughed about it and gone, oh god, another one that's going to be come in for 5 minutes and killed off, and we don't get.
They always kill people we don't care about.
And there's a lot of comments about that. And this one, I think what they've done really well with her. Well, obviously she's a really good actress. I think that helps. Yeah, and I think the rapport with the characters that she's been working with, especially Cash. I mean, everybody's loving Cash. I mean, Cash has always been a bit of a hit and miss character anyway. But everybody's absolutely loving Cash's new bodyguard role. The relationship and the chemistry that he had with Stevie, everyone's been praising that. And I think of some of it, missing Stevie is missing that Cash that we just had for a minute, and thinking that we're not going to get him back again.
Yeah, really good point. That's a very, very good point. Yeah.
Because he's been really popular. And, I read like loads and loads of comments over the last few weeks about how people have really, took to him and his new role, and he's not just boring Cash that goes to work and gets coffee from the diner on the way to a shift. He's got his whole personality on display with the way that they sort of, played off each other. I think has made people warm to him more. So I think people are worried that
was great, wasn't it? The casting of Stevie was phenomenal.
Yes.
And and by casting, it's not just sort of who they casted, it's like, and how she worked with him. With Nick Cartwright. Yeah. And
there was a lot that we've spoke about in the last few weeks. There was a lot of unscripted kind of sort of exchanges between the two of them, whether it was a look or whether it was like a physical like
eating his food or something.
It was like almost physical comedy, wasn't it? Like between the two of them, he's sat there at the table and they're having a conversation. He's eating his food and she's like picking at it with a fork and then deciding, she doesn't want it because it looks horrible. And he's like looking at her like, what the hell are you doing, woman? But none of it is mentioned. It's just all like, if you weren't watching that scene, you'd miss all of that.
Yeah.
So it's all those little things that have just, I think people have really warmed to her. She's made that character her own. I can't imagine anyone else playing that Stevie. So Chantel says, why did you kill her off? She was so good. And then a couple of people saying, Helen says, I didn't care that much for her, but shooting her was a bit harsh, and I hope Cash can break free from this now as well. And Caroline saying, this was cracking. I wasn't a big fan of Stevie, but I didn't want her to die. And then sad emoji. So even the people that weren't, desperately Stevie fans are saying, you didn't have to kill her off. This, as well.
Interesting. Yeah, and her death was a real shocking one.
Mm.
And then it involved a lot of people. Like, there were a
Yes.
lot of people on screen
Mm.
that helped create this sort of, and we had like 2 or 3 episodes of just panic. I sort of compared it to like what it must be like in a sort of shooting in America, didn't I, a couple of weeks ago?
Yeah.
And I think we've all sort of been shocked and traumatized by the death that you can't help but feel something about it, even though it is a guest character.
Yeah. Yeah.
It isn't your run of the mill death. This was just nuts, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yes.
Really,
Yeah.
really well done. I think capturing that panic,
Mm.
and dedicating that whole episode to it, really, lockdown and all sorts in the surf club and people going through the motions for all different reasons.
Yeah.
I think helped us to go with the motions.
Yeah.
Or
Absolutely. Yeah. Definitely. It did help to get swept up in it, didn't it? And
yeah,
even if you weren't a big Stevie fan, people got swept up in that storyline and the culmination of it. And they are,
yeah,
they're saying, why did you kill her off? I wasn't a massive fan of her, but I didn't want that,
yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's quite interesting because I can't,
Mm.
apart from those couple of comments saying I wasn't a huge fan of her, but I didn't want her to die, I can't find anything particularly negative about it, which is,
That's pretty good going.
it's interesting, comparing to some other deaths that we've talked about on Your Say on the Bay over the years.
This is how you do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then Victoria said, great couple of episodes with Stevie's death. I really wanted Tane to catch the gunman and be the hero. I did think we were going there at one point, when he was running after the stalker, and I was thinking, oh God, here we go. This is how he's going to redeem himself in court, because he's going to be the one that caught the person that killed Stevie Marlowe. I did think we were going there at one point, but actually I'm kind of glad we didn't.
I thought that, and I agree. I thought, this is how Tane gets off.
Yeah, I thought, because I thought that'd be a bit too cliche for me. I'm kind of glad that we didn't go there, but obviously Victoria wanted that conclusion. So,
but also, how do you justify what constitutes an equal enough? Do you know what I mean? Like, how you can't, it's not a trade-off, is it? Like, you've still done the wrongdoing.
Yes. Yeah.
So you can't really be giving them messages out to people on a tea time soap or whatever.
Yeah, that's true. People were not happy about Bree kissing Remy, though.
Oh, really?
Yes. Obviously, we've just talked about this on the main pod episode, but people online are also not happy with Bree.
Well, let's listen, because you sort of alluded to people having a different opinion to us. So I'm interested.
Yeah. Yes. So first of all, Lee on Facebook says Stevie's only been dead for 1 episode. Not even that, but yeah, it's like half an episode. Ashley said they barely knew each other and only became proper boyfriend and girlfriend the day before she got shot. So Ashley doesn't think it's a problem because they didn't really. I'm not sure I agree with that.
So does having a label on something mean that you can or cannot feel something?
Yeah. Or can get
it's
over
controversial.
them. Get over them within half an hour. Kiss someone else while they're still not even cold.
Yeah, that doesn't sit right with me, Soslove.
No, me neither. Sorry, Ashley. Vicky says, I think Bree should have stayed with Nelson. He's quite a catch. It didn't take long for Remy to move on, did it? Now, this is where the interesting sort of comments came up, and a lot of people jumped on Vicky's comment, actually, because Vicky seems to be blaming Remy, saying Remy didn't take long to move on. And as I said to you, my kind of view of that scene was that Remy was quite passive in that kiss, wasn't fully participating in it, and Bree initiated it. Although I do think he triggered the kiss because of all the stuff he said to her beforehand, and I do think he is partly to blame for it. But a few people jumped in. So Carl said he hasn't moved on. She kissed him, and he's told her that they need to keep a distance from each other. And Francis says Remy's still in shock and hurting. He and Bree do still care for each other and have a natural instinct to feel that way about each other. And Jeanette says, but it didn't take her long being with Nelson either, and that's why he dumped Stevie. So there's lots of
Oh,
comments on this. Not
so
many
we're
people are in
so
agreement. Yeah.
so what I'm hearing is we're making points. We're
Yeah.
scoring
We're
points,
scoring points. Yeah.
which
Yeah.
was a bit like how, to be fair, that's a bit like how Brie ended up giving Man Bun a whirl. Like it was like,
Yeah.
well, he can do
Revenge.
it, so can I.
Yeah. And the
Which is
bike.
why yep. Oh yeah, yeah, very true. That's another
Mm.
point. So that's why I'm a bit like, you know, this is why she's probably not very in tune with what she's doing, hurting Man Bun
Yeah.
by kissing him, and she's not thinking it's anything. I don't believe.
No.
I think she's had a bit of fun,
Mm.
and she's just realised that she wants Remy back. What's not right is that, you know, I mean, Stevie is literally still warm,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then you're a bit like, could she have saved her then? You know, I'm not
Oh.
saying
Oh.
do you know?
I don't think that that's an issue. I think she did what she could to save her, because I don't think any doctor wants to lose a patient, no matter who they are. I don't think they, I don't think she was just letting her die. I don't think that, but she
Well,
is.
Levi was in the room as well, so he'd have
Yeah,
something to say, wouldn't he?
she does seem to be trying to benefit from her not being in the picture anymore, though. Possibly, I don't
Very,
know.
very quickly. But
Mm,
who decides what is quick and what? I don't know. I don't know, because
yeah,
she's not thinking. But
yeah,
I
and
I
you
don't
could
think
argue.
Remy's led her on.
I don't know. I think that conversation they had led to her kissing him. And I think that's where the kiss initiated from. But she did initiate it. And I think you could argue that actually both of them are pretty traumatized and pretty messed up right now.
Mm,
Remy's just got back together with Stevie. They slept together literally hours ago, and now she's dead. Um,
mm.
Bree is in love with Remy, and she's just had to, do end of life CPR care on his current girlfriend. That's
It's,
traumatic. And
it's just an absolute mess, isn't it?
it's just I mean, in real life, would you be, as a doctor, wouldn't they just get someone else? Would she be allowed to do that? Is it even, I don't know. I don't know what the ethical stance is on that. And then have to go and deliver the news to him, and see him break down, and see your ex-boyfriend crying over her body. I mean, you could argue that both of them are really traumatized right now, and they just.
Yeah. And you know what? That would be the only explanation for how we've ended up in this hot mess, to be
Yeah.
fair.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. But I mean, we're saying please don't put them back together, but the internet disagrees with us, Si, because there's a lot of
Do
people on
they?
Facebook. Yeah. Eileen saying Brie and Remy should be together. Christine saying I hope they get back together. But Kelly's feeling for Nelson and saying, but what about Nelson? Jane saying I'd choose Nelson. He's a stonker, and she seemed more flirty with him. But Debbie says no, get Remy and Brie back together. They make a lovely couple. So there's quite a lot of people that want these two as a couple. Yeah.
Mm.
Julie on Twitter says, I can't believe Brie's done that. Obviously still has feelings for him. Has poor Nelson been kicked to the curb? I think he has. I think he has,
I think
Julie.
so, but I think he'll live.
Yes. Oh yeah. He'll go to
You know,
Italy, and he'll, get on with his
I
life.
did think it was funny that he, to get away from it all, he was going to go to Naples of all places. One of one of the most dangerous gun blazes in Europe.
Yeah, it's gonna end up another Romeo and Juliet, isn't he? I think.
We didn't really talk about it, but they should have gone for the recast, in my opinion, and ploughed on with the film.
Oh, harsh. Harsh. Oh, no, it's not just Remy and Brie moving on, then it's you as well. Just get a new
Oh yeah,
actress in.
I'm so over it. Over it.
Oh no, I'm still reeling.
Oh.
I'm still at the smoking ceremony and,
No,
upset.
I am
Right.
really. I'm just being silly. Yeah.
Oh dear. What about the murder tourists then? What are people saying about them?
Yeah, go on. because we got quite deep in this in our discussions. Go on.
We did. There weren't a huge amount of comments on this actually, but on Facebook we did have people saying, the lack of respect is making them feel a bit uncomfortable. Elaine saying, God, there's no respect. Helen saying, hated the selfies, so tasteless and mawkish. I love that word, brilliant word. Happens in real life too, especially with celebrities. Don't mind the t-shirt so much, but the selfies directly at the memorial site, no, just no. So lots of people with strong opinions on that as well. Francis,
I'll cancel the R.I.P. Stevie mugs.
yeah, please do. Don't think they're going to go as quickly as the Coastal News ones. Helen saying, sorry, not Helen. Francis is saying to Helen, maybe not the best taste to wear the t-shirts, but they probably thought it was their way to remember her. Definitely agree about the selfies. Trouble with it being a public space, not a lot anyone can do to stop them. And this is another thing that people talk about online. So, when Alf wanted to move the memorial, we're still not really sure where the memorial is. Because Sarah on Twitter, 30th floor, was saying where they're going to move the memorial to. Where's less public?
Well,
but
in the first look at tonight, it was on the grassy knoll.
It was, yeah, it was.
No shelter though, so that was a load of bollocks.
No, and I was a bit, I was a bit taken aback by that because they were talking like before we saw it, they were saying, "Oh, isn't that a lovely place that Marley picked for the memorial?" And I was like, "Well, where's he picked?" And then when I saw it, I was like, "Oh, I don't think not quite what I was expecting." I don't know. Maybe I was thinking like Stuart's Point or the lighthouse or somewhere. I don't know. Just the grassy knoll where the shooter was a bit underwhelming. Yeah.
Closer to the car park.
Yeah, it was closer to the welcome to Summer Bay. Get out of Summer Bay sign. Yeah, don't know. Mr. David on Twitter said Alf has been through so much, you'd think he'd be a bit more sensitive and compassionate. People are grieving, so not happy with Alf's management of the memorial and wanting to get rid of Stevie's ghost as quick as possible, and get back to, because he kept saying like, let's get back to normal. What would you normally be doing now, Marley? You'd normally be teaching surf lessons on the beach, and he was like, yeah, but I can't go down there. So he was trying to. I don't know whether that's just him though. He's a very much a keep calm and carry on kind of guy, isn't he?
He is, and I think you need them. You need that in times like this.
Yeah.
And I feel like what he brought people this week was much needed.
Yeah, I kind of agreed and disagreed with him at the same time. So agreed with him about the disrespectful mourners. That really annoyed me, and agreed with him on that. And the t-shirts was awful. Glad he got rid of them. But then I do think that people, genuine grievers that need that closure, need a goodbye. They do need somewhere to congregate and support each other. And
yeah, of course, for all the reasons we mentioned. But what did you think? Has anybody commented about sort of us saying Alf sort of became a mourner? And did anybody pick up on that?
No, I don't think I've seen. I mean, they talked about the smoking ceremony. So Victoria Krankenwagen on Twitter said, Mr. Stewart looking on like a proud papa. Jen on Twitter saying, I really love the ceremony. Well done to everyone involved, including you, Alf, because Jen's got a love-hate relationship with Alf sometimes. David saying, as much as Marley gets on my nerves, I love the fact that Hemingway acknowledges and integrates this culture into the storyline, but it's a shame we didn't see Alf on a surfboard. It is a shame.
So Victoria's picked it up there, hasn't she, of Alf crowded looking on.
I think that's the only comment I saw though.
It's funny. I think I felt like I might have sort of read between the lines, but I was looking for some validation there.
I think I was too upset. I was just too about the whole thing. I wasn't really thinking about Mr. Stewart's legacy and him not being there anymore. I wasn't ready. I was already upset. I didn't need that as well.
Yeah, honestly, it caught me off guard because I've always been quite flippant and jokey with you about it. But actually that made me feel something strange, and then I thought, oh no, I think if and when that time comes, I think we're both going to be in a trouble.
Well, I didn't want to say this because I don't like talking about it because it just made me feel upset genuinely, and I feel like a right dickhead for saying it. But when he was talking about, I don't want to make this place into kind of, a memorial or a graveyard or whatever, and I was thinking, is this kind of a commentary on how Ray might feel when Ray's no longer here and people flock to the bay to Palm Beach to sort of say goodbye to him because he's such a big deal, and it made me uncomfortable.
The
even
whole
saying,
thing was a double entendre. Honestly, that it had all different meanings, and it was these nuances were there.
Yeah.
We can't be imagining it.
No, it did make me uncomfortable though, because I don't want to think about that. Yeah.
Well, I've been sort of, tough nut on here, saying, "Oh, I'm not bothered," but something caught me off guard this week with it.
Yeah.
Maybe I was getting a bit too involved in the smoking ceremony, and I was, I've had so many, as a lifelong fan of the show, I've had so many arguments about representation with people and all this stuff over the years that, I think it's just like I'm in a place now where I'm watching an Aboriginal character side by side with Al Stewart. Do you know, like,
it's massive.
And then I'm like,
yeah,
and then I'm like, but then there's all this sort of second meaning to it under the surface, and then he just, I don't know, I just got a bit caught off guard, and then I feel like I'm in trouble when we get there, and I'm gonna look a prat because I've been laughing at you.
I know I'm in trouble. I know there are two celebrities who I'm going to fall apart over, and one of them is Mr. Stewart, and the other one is Dick Van Dyke, and I'm dreading both of those not being around.
I'm not necessarily talking about Ray's death. I'm thinking he's turned 80 recently, all over the social media. I'm thinking
he's going to retire.
Is he going to bow out? Yeah, and I don't know whether.
That's the same as dying to me, because Mr. Stewart won't be there. Mr. Stewart will be dead. You know what I mean? I can't bear when he goes off to Marimbula, or when he used to go for the pantos at Christmas. He used to disappear for 3 months off screen, and I get reminded of this on Facebook Memories occasionally, where I'm sitting there on Facebook Memories going, "When's he coming back?" I can't bear the show without him. 10 years ago, it'll pop up and it'll say 10 years ago you said this on Facebook, and it's me going, "Where's Mr. Stewart? I can't watch the show without him."
I have similar embarrassing things on mine.
I can't bear it. Like, the idea of him not being on there, like the idea, I mean, what is the show without Alf, Irene, etc.?
I don't think we have a problem, because I think the show runs fine without him personally, but
no, it's not the same.
I am now confused about my feelings having watched this week. I'm gutted it looks like Victoria saw something there, but I'm gutted not a lot of others aren't picking it up.
No.
Maybe they'll hear this, go back and watch the clip.
Yeah.
And see if you can see it.
Yeah.
And come and tell us.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I can see it all there written on his face.
Oh. You made me really sad now. I'm going to carry on reading these.
Sorry, yeah, move on.
Let's change the topic.
Is there any innuendo?
Maybe. Let's change the topic. Let's talk about Tane. Danny. So Tane. I don't know how you pronounce it properly, because when I try and hear how Flick pronounces it, because I think Flick
everyone pronounces it different.
They do, but I think the way that Flick pronounces it is probably correct, and I think it's like Tane. It's like really quick.
Yeah,
I can't get
it's
there.
It's more like a Tanya.
Yeah,
isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, his surname got butchered. I don't know how many times in court this week.
Well, it was Parata. I was like, what is this guy's name?
Bless.
Yeah, Mr. P. There we go. So Tane, however you want to pronounce his name. The demigod. Let's talk about the demigod. So Krankenwagen Victoria, who noticed Proud Papa Alf looking at the old smoking ceremony, has also noticed Tane's defense is a bit weak. So Victoria says, Victoria says, basically, Tane's defense is that he was heartbroken over Flick not wanting kids. I don't blame her. She told him she didn't want them, and he didn't listen. Yeah. Just Jen on Twitter also saying the same thing, saying, I'm sorry, but my wife, who told me many times that she didn't want kids, not changing her mind. And then I went completely mental about it, caved and lied for a week or so about it, and is why I kidnapped a baby, is the worst defense I've ever heard in my life. Yeah. Tweety Tie on Twitter says, lol, 7 years in the community. Can he go to another community? Because last time I checked, he was going to go back to New Zealand. Yeah, I wonder which community specifically it has to be served in. I don't know.
That's a very good point. Yeah.
Lol, that's very funny.
No one's mentioned if he entered no plea.
No, I don't think I've seen any comments about that. No, he doesn't even know what to say.
The guy saying he did or didn't do it, like
he doesn't even know.
It's all been a bit strange, isn't it?
Doesn't even know. And then Jamie raises a really good point, because when we were talking about the witnesses and Tane actually put himself forward a couple of weeks ago and said, put me on the stand, and Marshall said, oh god, no, wouldn't do that, that'd be a mess. And Jamie said, when they said that Tane had taken the stand for the prosecution because they'd have a field day would be awful, Jamie says, well, where was the field day? We never saw it. And that's a good point, actually. But then I was wondering whether it's because Marshall made him fall on his sword, essentially, by, bringing up all that stuff about Flick and her lying about the contraceptive pills and everything else. Has he just basically put all his cards on the table, and actually the prosecution couldn't really have gone after him after that point? Because what could they say after he's already admitted that his marriage broke down because his wife lied to him about wanting children? And he spiraled.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
What else can they do to him? They can't paint him as a monster.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It's already. I guess. Yeah, you're right. It's the only explanation, really, isn't it?
Yeah, because the field day would be him being painted as this horrible person who's violent, who's come from a thug family, and his brother was in prison for murder when he died, and all the kind of nothing to do with Tane really, but kind of besmirching the reputation of the Parata family. I was thinking that, but then if you've got a guy who's just stood there looking broken and saying, yeah, my marriage broke up because my wife lied to me and I want a baby, you can't really make him out to be a monster after that, can you?
No, that's very, very good point. Also, I think if it would have been a jury, we might have had more of that.
Yes, yeah, that's true.
Because that's more delicious for the storyline, isn't it? For the viewers. But yeah, good point both ways, really, whichever way you look at it.
Yeah, I think it's a good point that Jamie brought that up, like, where was the field day? But I do think it would have been hard to rip him apart after that.
Yeah.
Victoria on Twitter says, Harper can't wait to get her claws into our Tane. Yeah.
Well, I think she played a good long game, actually.
Yes. Julie saying, do you think he only slept with her because he thought he was getting sent down?
No, he was testing that new airbed.
Yeah, that's true. There was quite a few people commenting on whether Harper, when she told Dana about it, when she came clean to Dana and said, oh yeah, we did sleep together, we know Dana's got a bit of a big mouth. Was that intentional? Was it, does she want Dana to do the dirty work of telling the Bay so that it gets out? And, are we suspicious about her intentions, or?
Really? Do we think Harper's like that?
Well, there's a lot of people that are still not feeling Harper. There's a lot of comments on Facebook saying, I've warmed to Dana. She seems quite, human and funny. And people were finding her funny this week because there was that scene in Salt where Xander's trying to look after her and say, can I bring you anything? She goes, oh, can I have some cake? And he goes, oh, we're a bar, we don't really do cake. And she's like, yeah, but I was hoping you'd make me one. And all those kind of little comments that she makes that are quite funny. And people are warming to her, because when they first came in, remember on You're Saying the Bay, I was reading out comments after comments about how nobody liked them. They didn't like the fact that they were bringing Irene into all this trouble and getting her, involved in their life and lying to Irene and, you know, making her an accomplice to the crime, etc. And I was reading week after week about things about her, about both of them. And initially people really didn't like Dana. And because she was coming across as really petulant, she wouldn't understand the bigger consequences for other people. She's very selfish. You know, she'd just go for a walk on the beach. And people were saying, I can't believe she's going for a walk on the beach when Irene could get in trouble for, you know, being found in her house and everything else.
Yeah.
But people are warming to Dana, especially after she's got with Xander. But there's still loads of comments about Harper, people not warming to Harper, people being suspicious of her, mainly because of how she's acted around Tane and the fact that people have thought for weeks that she was after him, but just acting like she isn't and not being genuine. And now people are still being suspicious about her and thinking, you know, does she want Flick to find out about her and Tane, but she doesn't want to do it herself, but she'll tell Dana because Dana will tell the world and then eventually it will get back to her. You know, there's people saying that. So people are suspicious of her.
Is it like sexism? Like, I know it's like not something you expect me to come out with, but like,
I don't know whether it's that.
Are we sort of have that attitude towards her, thinking, oh, you know, she's all over Tane? I mean, I'll hold my hands up if that's what we're going to say, because I've said similar things. But I don't know, like, would we have that attitude if it was a bloke?
I don't know. No. It's a good question. I don't know. I didn't see it as like overtly sexist, but it could be covertly, I guess.
One to watch. Put a pin in it.
I think people just haven't warmed to her because she is still standoffish and she's not as easily likable as Dana is. Like you say, Dana's human. She's anxious. She's
very girl next door, Dana, isn't she?
Yeah, and Harper's very tight, very wound up, very keeps her cards close to her chest. We can't really tell what she's thinking or doing, and people haven't warmed to her for that reason, I think. So I don't know. People are just suspicious of her that she's not genuinely as goody as she makes out. I don't know. We'll see.
And of course, she's in between the power couple that is Tenacity. So that never helps, does it?
Yeah. And talk about the power couple. There's obviously comments about whether Flick and Tane will get back together and everything else. Victoria on Twitter says, I'm over wanting Flick and Tane to get back together. She's grown up through their marriage and she's outgrown him. I thought that was interesting. So you think about when they first got together, she was like a wild, childish, you know, and
dancing on bars.
Yeah, and now she's got a business. She's got her head together in terms of the stuff that happened with her. You know, she thought her parents were murdered, didn't she? There was all that crazy stuff, wasn't there, with Gary? And she blamed Gary, and you know, why are you not looking into their death? And he was like, no, like it's not that. And she's come a long way.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Of all the characters go on this arc, don't they? Most characters have them. When you compare hers to like somebody like Bree, for example, miles apart. So much development as a character, so much healing as well. She was really, really broken, really, by her childhood and her upbringing. Felicity.
Yeah, and she was so angry about, you know, her parents leaving her and being what she thought was murdered.
And we defended it to her hill on here about that, about not wanting kids and why would she, you know, and all that affects that decision.
Yes.
She's made mistakes, I think everybody does. And that is a very good point. Could she have outgrown Tane? Yeah, quite possibly.
Yeah.
I think he's grown as well, though, to be fair. He's not the tearaway buffhead, no job that he was when he arrived.
But I think he's become less stable and she's become more stable.
Do you think?
Yeah, I think so. Because
I think Tane is a bit of a rock for his family. I mean, he's ended up on his own.
But like mentally, I think he's quite mentally unstable.
But that seems to be going completely unaddressed criminally.
Yeah. Yeah.
This attitude with men and mental health, it's for some reason it's different.
Yeah. It's not as easily sort of spat out, is it?
Mm.
Because we had a lot of mental health with Marilyn and, you know, various other people on the show, Felicity.
Yeah.
But with
Yeah.
men, it's not as spelt out, is it? It's not as obvious.
No. And it's fascinating, but also like frustrating.
I mean, even this week we had Brie saying to Flick when they were talking about Cash, and she said, "Oh, there is counselling available if he wants it." And she goes, "Huh," as if. And then the way that Flick actually approached that conversation with Cash was very flippant as well. She went, "Oh, well, Brie said you can go see a counsellor if you want." You know, it was just very much like.
That's right. Do something about it. Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't.
You're right. I forgot about that scene.
It wasn't. I don't think it was very tactfully or thoughtfully. It was just like, "Oh, well, if you need counselling, you can go for it." Very
It's
throwaway
available
comment.
to you. Yeah, it wasn't like a. Yeah, these are the benefits to you. You know, this is what, you know, you really need to look after yourself. I can see you struggling. It wasn't nothing like that, was it? It was,
No.
well, here's a leaflet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it did feel a bit flippant. Yeah, it did. Jamie mentioned the fact that Marley's got yet another secret to look after. So we had Marley obviously looking after the secret for Mac and Levi and the fact that they were having this affair. And now Marley, although Dana does know now, Marley for most of this week was the only one that knew about Harper and Tane and them hooking up because he'd seen her do the walk of shame from the gym, hadn't he? So Marley seems to be the secret keeper, but also very judgy with it. So it's interesting.
It did cross my mind because he was getting involved in another secret between two people again.
Yeah.
A position that we're led to believe is so uncomfortable it drove him stir crazy.
And yeah, he actively sought out Harper this time because he went up to her twice and said, "Are you okay?" And she was like, "No, not really," but didn't give any details. And then he went, "Yeah, I know what happened between you two." He didn't. He just assumed. I mean, he's assumed correctly. But he's assumed.
That's true. Yeah.
And he said, because he's not had that conversation with Tane, not that we've seen. And he said, I know what happened between you two. And then she's had to sort of say, "Yeah, you're right." But Wise took it on himself to approach Harper, who
nothing to bloody do with him.
They're not friends, are they?
No.
I don't think they are.
No, I don't.
I'll have to put a pin in that and keep an eye on it. But just to end the week on Your Say on the Bay, we've got a comment from Nina on Twitter who says the writing is phenomenal. It always is, and that's why it's my must-see soap. Forget the rest.
Yes, Nina, we agree.
Yeah, we do.
Hold me in your